Welcome to Numbers&Narratives, hosted by Ezra K and Owen Terry. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Welcome to Numbers&Narratives. We've got Cameron Morgan on the show today, Man United fan. How are you, Cam?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. So this week we're doing part 3 of our Premier League preview. It's finally going to happen this week. The Premier League season starts. We made our fantasy teams. That's how you know when it's getting serious. So I think Owen wants to start this show with a dumb or not. And unfortunately for him, his phone's just run out of battery, which had a lot of stats on it. So he's going to be winging this one.
There's more stats in my brain than on the phone. So
very well might be the first dumb or not of the podcast, which is dumb because Owen's not going to be able to explain it very well. But we'll see how it goes. What have you got for us, Owen?
Okay, so I won't say what the dumb or not is straight away, but I'm just going to get... if I want to get your guys' opinion on what's fair or on who's most likely to win the Premier League, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so Sportsbet has Spurs at a 5% chance of winning the Premier League. What do you reckon about that? You reckon it's a bit high?
Bit high.
About right, I think.
About right. Man United at 6%. What do you reckon there?
Way too high.
See, I honestly feel like Man United... Yeah, I don't know. Traditionally, Man United have won a lot more leagues than Spurs, so I feel like that should play a part in the statistics. I would give United a higher percentage than Spurs, honestly.
Okay, so you think 6 is fair? Or do you think
Yeah,
higher
6
than
sounds about right. Yeah.
All right. Then we got Chelsea at 7%.
No.
Yeah, that's stupid.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
That's too high?
That's way too high.
Okay. And then we've got Liverpool at 20%.
20%. New manager.
Sounds high.
Sounds pretty high.
I'd say about 10, 15, maybe.
Yeah, go 12.
Oh, okay. And skip Newcastle, but oh well. That's what happens when you don't have the notes on you. I think they're about 1 and 7. But anyway, Arsenal were at 36%.
I'd say that's fair.
That's fair.
I feel like Arsenal might have higher chance this season. Maybe like a 40. I would give it. Yeah.
40?
Yeah.
All right. And Man City were at 45%.
Yeah. You'd probably have them a bit higher.
Bit higher?
A little bit higher. Yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to tell you about the Opta's supercomputer. And what Opta's supercomputer does is it uses 2 ways to determine who's going to win a game. It uses the same rating system as what FIFA use for their world rankings. You know, Belgium's always number 1. It uses that ranking as half of it. Or as a contributor, not half. And the other part it uses is what betting markets say who's likely to win. But they just make it realistic rather than putting the odds in the favour of the house in favour of the betting company. And then they use this just to go, Liverpool, 70% chance of beating Ipswich, 20% chance of a draw, 10% chance of a loss. And they do this for every single game of the season, and they simulate all of the results, and they do that 10,000 times. And from that, they determine who's most likely to finish where. Right? So this is essentially a realistic version of what the betting markets think is going to happen.
Yeah.
In the Spurs were given less than 0.1% chance of winning the league. So Manchester United, I think, was 0.1%. So you can.
About right.
Chelsea were a bit higher than Manchester United and Spurs. They're actually considered the fourth most likely to win the league, I think, and Newcastle, or one of the two. Anyway, Liverpool were only given a 5% chance of winning the league. Arsenal, 12%. Manchester City, 82%.
Yeah, wow.
And they got the top 3 right exactly last season. And they also got 2 of the relegated teams bang on.
Right.
So, but the point is, this is what the betting markets actually think.
Yeah.
And the odds that they were saying, the chances they were saying each team was like how likely they were to win was way higher than what it realistically was, so they can give you worse odds. And so on average, you're getting ripped off by about 20% with all of those bets. The only one that they had as you got better odds for was Man City, and that's because they like to balance the books, and they want people betting on each outcome pretty much the exact same, because that way, no matter what, they get a profit.
Right.
So that's why there was City, they actually gave favourable odds. Everything else was you getting completely ripped off by what they think's going to happen. And I mention this because I think this is the first season where we'll have more clubs sponsored by betting companies than not. So over half are sponsored by a betting company. And if you go to the championship, do you guys know what the actual name of the championship is this season?
No.
You know how it's the Barclays Premier League? Do you know what the championship is?
Sky Bet?
Sky Bet, yes.
There you go.
The Sky Bet Championship. 17 out of the 24 teams are sponsored by a gambling company.
That is a ridiculous amount.
It is a lot.
Yep.
So the dumb or not this week is betting is dumb. Don't do it. You gotta lose money is the point, which is as obvious as it comes. But I think we'll make dumb or not a bit harder in the future. But I also wanted to point out that we get things wrong. Like I guess. The chance we gave of City winning and all of the other teams, we were also quite far off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because heuristics, we learned this in finance, pretty much that people's shortcuts of like getting to numbers are really bad, but our perception of them is really high. So we think we're really good at it,
Yeah.
but we're actually really bad.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that betting companies obviously take big advantage of. So that's the dumb or not. Betting dumb.
Agree.
Yeah, betting is definitely dumb.
You Cal was trying to say I was going to disagree before the podcast
Yeah,
started.
you can't really disagree with that.
I'm shocked at that. About how many teams are sponsored by betting companies. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's something to keep an eye on now that the Premier League's about to come back up. This is one of the main sources of revenue, not just in Premier League and football, but also if you look at the AFL, NRL, also gambling is a huge part, unfortunately.
Didn't they bring in some sort of act or thing that means that from a certain year onwards you can't have betting sponsors on your shirt?
Oh, they definitely did speak about
Yeah,
that.
because I remember hearing something about it ages ago, but it's obviously
Don't
just...
know if it...
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have looked into that.
Yeah, I think there might be something in the works for that, but I'm not sure if it's actually been brought in yet. Yeah.
But would they have to get all of the clubs to agree on that?
Oh,
So-
yeah.
Because
which
I don't
will be
know if all the
tough.
bottom clubs
Yeah.
will want to...
No.
Because none of the top 6 are sponsored by betting companies. It's all of the other ones that are trying to make up extra funds that they can't get.
Through their own revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's the dumb or not.
Definitely dumb. All right. I want to start with the community shield. I actually didn't get around to watching the game, but I know Cam and Owen seen most of it. What did you think of the game?
Yeah, interesting game. Man United definitely showed considerable improvement compared to last year, and we were definitely playing a bit undermanned. So even though we lost on penalties, you can thank Johnny Evans for that. I think that it's a good sign.
What about
For
Sancho?
United. I don't even want to talk about Sancho. I've get rid of him. He's gone from my mind.
One game in.
He's done. He's finished. But yeah, I think the XG was like 1.44 to United and 0.55 to City. We missed a couple of very good chances.
I saw the highlights in the Rashford.
Yeah.
Rashford had a couple of
Rashford had
ones.
a couple.
Yeah.
Amadiala, who is looking quite good this season. He squared one when he probably should have had a shot. And we should have won that. But it's all right. It's only the Community Shield.
Was it kind of like a equally as good performance as the FA Cup final, where you beat them again, obviously? Well, you beat them before.
good question. I think the FA Cup final performance was probably better from a tactical point of view.
Yeah.
But I think that like last year, one of United's main problems was conceding so many shots in a we were I think the second worst team behind Burnley or Sheffield United.
Yeah.
For conceding shots. This game we only conceded 8 shots. And of course, like one of the only ones that was on target was Bernardo Silva with a header. How do you let a man that small?
Well, it was because Palestri was subbed on at right back, who's obviously small in stature and is more used to being a winger.
He's a winger, yeah.
Yeah.
And we had to play him there because we're trying to sell Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah,
and so he wasn't in the squad.
But how good is Bernardo? I hate Bernardo Silva. He's so good.
He's
ridiculous.
unbelievable.
He gets subbed in and he's like... Puts Man City on the front foot once he's on, I'd say, for most of that period.
I think so, yeah. Because he came on in the last, 10 minutes?
Yeah, it was pretty late.
Yeah, he was really, really good.
He's such a wind-up, like, just the way he behaves on the pitch. Like, you just want to hit him. Like, he's so frustrating. Him diving and whinging to the ref. Yeah, he's like Bruno Fernandes.
yeah, Bruno's bad. Bruno's not very good at that. But I thought that Bruno had a really good game. I thought
I'm very interested in because I think as a midfielder, because he tries the press, but he's not very good at it, and he gets dribbled past a bit easily. I think that's can be hidden a bit more further up the field, where if he just puts in that effort in the press, it can help out, and he can play almost like a Bobby Firmino type role. Obviously, doing it in different ways, being a better chance creator. I actually really like the idea of Bruno Fernandes as a centre forward rather than in midfield or on the wing, where he can't do as much, create as many chances from those central positions.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on Bruno in the the centre of the park with the...
Was he a false nine?
He was playing the false nine.
Centre forward, yeah.
Well, he played there in the FA Cup final as well, and it paid off. But yeah, I think it for the first half an hour of the game, it wasn't working at all. Him and Mount were kind of both occupying the same space, just leaving a massive gap in midfield. But then it started to, they grew into the game as they went on. And he started to drop deeper and pick up the ball and ping it wide to Rashford and Ahmed and Garnacho.
Because he got the assist for the Garnacho goal, was it? Or he played a part and pass in the...
Yeah, I think he got the assist or the pre-assist.
Yeah, and he also nearly scored a screamer if it wasn't offside.
He did score a screamer. He just was offside.
Yeah. Do you think that Mason Mount can fit in the same side as Bruno Fernandes if one's playing centre forward and one's in midfield? Or do you think that that together they just don't work? Because as we saw them in the same midfield, they occupy the same spaces too much.
Yeah, it was interesting because Mount was playing as a 10 and Bruno was playing as a false 9, and they were just both in the same spot. I reckon if you have Bruno as a 10 and Mount just alongside Cobby, that could work, but you'd need to tell Mount you can't run forward as much. You need to help out defensively, which I'm not sure how good he would be at that.
Because his pressing's elite.
His pressing's really, really good, and that's why you want him further up the pitch. But it'll just be very hard with Bruno because you're just making a gap in midfield. That would be hard to cover.
That was the problem from last season, was that there was that big gap, and we saw that again in the Community Shield game, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I want to ask for your opinion on how Man United go about this gap, because I think in terms of the attacking structure, it can be quite similar to Tottenham Hotspur, who I read today actually conceded the most shots from when they're building up. They conceded the most transition attacks from when it failed. And I think that Tottenham are kind of set up that can happen, and they just press really aggressively from the front, and they do it in the midfield, and then they've got Mickey van der Ven, who's got the pace in behind to help protect the back line. Is that about correct?
Yeah,
Ezra?
That's accurate. Yeah.
With Manchester United, it seems that they press aggressively from the front, then the midfield and defence just retreat, and then that retreating leads to the teams dribbling up the field, and it's not a good chance, but it's still leading to a lot of shots.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? And is it a concern that you
100%.
saw we saw a similar thing in this game, even if Man United played well?
I think we saw a similar thing for a certain amount of time, but then I'd say that like after the 35, 40-minute mark, especially in the second half, United were much better. They were really compact. Casemiro actually looked good for once and was covering a lot of ground and making those important interceptions and playing those really nice balls up to Bruno, who would then just ping it and start the counter. I think that it obviously is worrying if that does continue to happen, but I think it's too early to say that it is like
Still
happening.
an issue.
Still an issue. Yeah. I think we need to see a couple of games into the season.
I mean, the Community Shield is kind of well known for being over-analysed. Pep has been terrible in the Community Shield over his career. And a part of that is because City normally start the season a bit later, so they're not as ready. And this time, I will, if I play devil's advocate, Pep did say they were going to play youngsters, and they did. I think it was O'Reilly that was starting midfield. McAtee got to go.
Yeah. Oscar Bob.
And there was someone else.
He's really good. Rico Lewis as well.
He was really good.
Yeah.
Well, I think Man City have still got players coming back from the Euros, right?
Yes, which I guess Man United had the same, but probably not to the same extent as Manchester City, I'd say.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, Man City have lost a lot of Community Shields and then gone on to win the league, so it's not a
and
great.
It was also the same when Liverpool won the league. City actually won the Community Shield. So Manchester United are probably going to win the league. Sportsbet got it wrong.
6% chance.
I wanted to ask you, Cam, about some of the new signings which you've made. We'll start with maybe Yoro.
Yeah.
He looks like a pretty exciting signing. He's got injured though, hasn't he?
Yeah. So he played, two preseason games or 1.5 preseason games before coming off injured. Fractured metatarsal, which is not a great injury to get first up. Out for 3 months, I think.
Not ideal.
Which is really not ideal. But in the 1.5 games I saw, he was fantastic. He was really, really good. It looks very, very comfortable on the ball, was playing some really nice passes and has a really, really quick recovery. He made a really good block against Rangers where it was almost a certain goal if he didn't get there. And he looked really good. I'm very excited to actually watch him.
Probably something you've been missing, is a bit of pace in that back line,
yeah. Especially last season, our back line was just decimated pretty much the whole season. I think we had 16 or 17 different combinations of a back four, which is just you can't be consistent when you're rotating so many players through.
And you've also, I don't know if it's gone through yet, but Delit and Mazraoui coming in.
Yeah, Delit and Mazraoui.
Are they just backup options, or?
I think Delit will definitely start.
Yep.
I think he'll start over Yoro just because of him being young, coming back from injury. I think he'll kind of get integrated throughout the team throughout the season a bit slower. Mazraoui, I haven't seen too much of him. I just know he's very injury prone, which is not something that United need considering the injuries we've had over the past season. But I've heard that he's been likened to how Dalot plays, and he can also cover both the left and the right. So I think it is probably a sensible signing. I just hope that he doesn't get injured.
Is Delit? Is it a bit concerning with Delit that Eric Dyer was starting ahead of him for Bayern Munich, and he also doesn't have that pace, and it might lead to Manchester United looking to retreat as soon as the other team's transitioning against them? Is that a concern about his pace and that Dyer was starting ahead of him, or does that not bother you?
It doesn't concern me that Dyer is starting ahead of him. I think that's just to do with Tuchel as a coach. Because when Nagelsmann was there, Delit was one of the first names on the team sheet. And it's just, different coaches have different priorities, different things that they want. And just from reading Bayern fans online, they did not want to sell Delit at all. I think they voted him as their best defender for the one full season that he played. So I'm pretty confident that he is going to be a good.
And he's also known as a very strong leader when he was with Ajax. He was 18 and he captained them to the Champions League semi-finals, and they won the league and the cup, I believe.
Under Ten Hag, yeah.
Under Ten Hag.
Yeah.
So do you think that leadership's going to be valuable? Do you think Manchester United have been lacking that? I think Maguire got it quite early, didn't he? And then it went to Fernandes.
Yeah. I think Fernandes is a great leader. I think that De Ligt will definitely bring a needed leadership to the back line. He's kind of just like if Harry Maguire plays in the back line, we've got that leadership there. But obviously, you don't really want Harry Maguire starting every week. So De Ligt, can just seamlessly fit in there and just bring that leadership.
And what about Xerxes, Dutch striker? Or is he like more of a 10? Or not really sure.
I'm really not sure,
Yeah.
yeah. I think he did play as a 9 for Bologna, but I think he can play across the front three because he's a very very different striker to Højlund. I think he kind of drops deep more, receives the ball, dribbles with it, 1-2s, all that, whereas Højlund is much more of a in the box, pass me the ball and let me shoot.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to complement each other well. I'm excited to see Xerxes. I was a bit surprised that he didn't come on in the Community Shield, but maybe that's just kind of wanting to protect a young player who's not made their debut yet. So yeah, hopefully he's good.
Do you expect them to play together? Because as you said, they're very different style of players. And I know with Liverpool, Gakpo and Nunez, it's pretty much it's a very similar situation that Nunez is more that transitional, put me in behind like Højlund, and Nunez takes dumb shots, whereas Højlund takes smart shots. Is one difference. But then Gakpo is the same, more of a play to his feet, drops a bit deeper, good with the ball, like Xerxes.
Yeah.
But then it's very different when one or the other plays. Do you think they're going to play together, or how did you expect it to play out?
I definitely think they could play together. I don't think it will be. I don't think they'll both start together. But I think get to the 70th minute, we need a goal. I definitely think you could chuck them both on, and have either play at top two or have Xerxes on the right, Garnacho on the left, Højlund up top. I think that could work quite well together.
And so, does it concern you that they're different play styles, or are you happy that they're different play styles?
I'm very happy that they're different play styles because it adds a different dimension to how we can attack.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's say everyone's fit, everyone's available. What would you say is like your starting team? Like probably in the forward line, particularly, I'm interested in.
In the forward line,
yeah,
because Diallo's played well this pre-season, and
really well.
Even Mount, but he's probably not. Forward.
Mount, I don't think he'll start. He'll probably be. See, I'd play Garnacho over Rashford. Garnacho on the left, Højlund up top, and then Ahmed on the right.
It's pretty strong. An improvement, you'd say. Then
Anthony.
Yeah. And Sancho, he obviously had a good season for Dortmund. You're just not keen on him.
No. Every time he plays for United, he just looks lazy. He doesn't look like he wants to play. So I'd rather just...
Do you think that's still to do with like a fractured relationship with the coach, or...?
That has to play a part in it.
Yeah.
He has to... Yeah. He obviously wants to be backed as a player. And I don't think Ten Hag has done that very much. So obviously, he's right to feel a bit aggrieved, but he also doesn't play very well when he does play for United. So
it seems like a massive waste of talent. You've just got sitting there.
Yeah, I'd rather just... I think it would be best for both parties if he got sold. Like sell him for 20 million, and then he can go play great football somewhere. Yeah, and we can get 20 million.
Just not going to happen for him at United.
Yeah.
I was going to ask as well, are you a bit concerned with this trend that Ten Hag just wants to sign his former players? I think how many is it now? De Ligt, Mazraoui, Onana, Anthony, Martinez, Van der Beek. Quite a few.
It is a bit concerning, but since the takeover of Ineos in the past couple months, I'm pretty confident that the signings of De Ligt, Mazraoui, Xerxes, even though De Ligt and Xerxes are both Dutch. Mazraoui obviously played at Ajax. I think that there is probably some Ten Hag influence, but I have more faith that Ineos have been, okay, no, these are actually good players. We're not just buying them because Ten Hag likes them. We're buying them because they have decently high value. They're young. They're able to prove themselves. And a lot of them have already worked with Ten Hag. I think that's an added bonus instead of Ten Hag previously being like, oh, I know this guy. I want him.
I know he works. Yeah. You had a pretty big U-turn on Ten Hag. I remember listening to you through last season. You're like, he's a fraud. Like, he needs to go. And then you win the FA Cup, and you seem to be on his side.
Do wonders.
Trophies do wonders.
What's happened? What's changed?
I think it's because that United have never had a manager after Sir Alex Ferguson that's lasted more than 2 seasons. So just give
Is that right? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Give a bit more time with the new upper management structure. Let it work out. Because if we signed a new manager at the end of last season, it would just be starting a new cycle when we already have most of the talent there to become a really good team. It's just show a little persistence.
There's a lot of differing opinions on Andre Onana because he's in the highlights sometimes, and you see the goals that he concedes, and they're a bit concerning, particularly it was in the Champions League probably.
Yeah.
And there's also just been headlines about when he went to represent, was it Cameroon in the AFCON? There's probably didn't help his perception, but statistically he performs quite well. Do you like Onana, Ezra?
I don't know. I'm probably guilty of just only scrolling through Instagram and seeing memes about him and seeing all the probably the exaggerated bad things which he does.
Yeah,
and because I haven't got I don't watch Man United play every week, so I probably don't have a great opinion. But yeah, from my perception, from what I've seen on online and stuff, he does seem a bit erratic.
Which I think is the dominant perception, but because obviously Cameron sees him every week, and the stats. Because I see the same as you with the highlights, and we see the goals he concedes. But then the stats do say that Onana is actually very good in a lot of areas. What are your thoughts on Onana?
He definitely started the season shakily last season. But that was always going to happen, moving to a big club. Not that Inter is not a big club, it's just there's a lot more media focus on United. He just needed a little bit of time to settle in. He did make some absolute howlers in the Champions League. He probably cost us, him and a few other players cost us, progressing to the knockouts.
Or even making Europa.
Yeah, but he really grew into the season. I started off not liking him that much. Now I really like him.
Oh, that's
I
good.
think that he is, the keeper that United need. He's very good with his feet. I never feel worried when the ball's at his feet.
So you're okay with him saying that he's going to take more risks this season?
Yeah, that is a bit concerning, but I trust him. I think that he'll do the right thing the majority of the time, which is kind of all you can ask.
From what I've heard, United, he played quite a lot of long balls. He'll play it out and then they'll roll it back to him and then he'll just send it long. Maybe by more risks he means actually more confidence in playing out from the back.
Yeah. I think that is what he means. Because he did do that a fair bit where we'd kind of play it out or pass it around the back for a while.
And then knock it back.
Nothing would happen and then he would kick it long and we'd lose possession.
Yeah.
That happened way too often and that was compounded by the fact that our midfield was just not there last season.
There was clips of Ten Hag shouting at De Gea for doing that, for kicking the ball long, and it's no, keep playing it out the back. So it's probably Ten Hag instruction as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that was the part of the reason they brought him in, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the main reason. We wanted someone that could play with their feet.
Yeah.
But De Gea is very good at stopping it with his feet. He's one of the best keepers in the world at stopping shots with his feet, just not playing it with his feet.
I do miss De Gea, but
he's gone Fiorentina now, I think.
Yeah, just signed for Fiorentina.
That's good
I think
to
it'll
see
be
him
quite
back.
good for them.
Yeah.
I've got one more question. It's a bit of a complicated one, I guess. Well, maybe not. But we've seen with Manchester United that a lot of the time when they get results, it feels lucky. And we've also seen a lot of results where it's been like the 7-0 against Liverpool, the 4-0 against Brentford, the 4-0 against Crystal Palace. We've seen some games where Manchester United were perhaps unlucky to lose by that amount, still deservedly lost.
Yeah.
So, to me, this seems like something that's bound to happen by the style of play that they have, where they retreat, they concede low-quality shots rather than high-quality shots. And to me, it means that sometimes you'll concede a bunch of goals, sometimes you'll concede none. I just want to get inside of your mind with how it feels to be a fan, how you think the players would feel, because I feel like it would just bring the mood down quite a bit if you're getting smashed some weeks and then when you win, you get lucky a lot of the time. Do you think it hurts being able to get any real momentum, or that the feeling in the club is not great because of this style of play, which can lead to big losses that can really bring morale down? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it definitely could bring morale. It probably has brought morale down a certain amount, especially with conceding so many shots week after week, just consistently getting just hounded. It can't be good for morale to concede that many shots. But then again, I do think that this season we'll see a lot less of that. I think that Ten Hag is actually going to try and implement a more controlled style of play compared to last season.
I'm going to put you on the spot where if for Ten Hag to keep his job, where do you think you need to finish? Like minimum top 4?
See,
or is it more about the performance if you play well and finish 6th?
I honestly think if we finish 6th and above, that will be fine. That'll be enough to keep his job.
As long as you can see progression.
Yeah. If there's no progression and we finish, 6th, it is time to bring in someone new.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair enough.
But I have faith that we'll give it. I'm just really optimistic.
Everyone is at the start of the season, yeah. All it takes is one bad game and then we'll bring you back on the show and we'll see how you feel about Ten Hag then.
We'll get punched 4-0 by Fulham and then I'll be over.
All right, let's move on to Man City. They haven't done a whole lot in the transfer window. They brought in Savinho, the Brazilian winger, who was on loan at Girona last season, and they did really well, making the top 4.
Got a good assist for the Bernardo Silva goal.
It was a good cross. I think he's like kind of idolised Mahrez, and he's taken Mahrez's number. Apparently, he's kind of like a similar kind of profile player. And then they've also let go Alvarez to Atletico Madrid for a big chunk of money, £65 million. I think maybe there's
I thought it was more.
Yeah, I think there might be add-ons on top of that.
Yeah, okay.
Taking it up. And then I think they only brought him in for about 20 mil, so that's a massive profit they've just made there. But do you think they're actually going to miss him? Like, is there going to be too much reliance on keeping Haaland fit?
It's a good question, and he's filled a lot of roles because he also, when De Bruyne was out, he was playing as a number 10, and he doesn't play like Kevin De Bruyne, but he was offering something different that was still helping Man City get the results. But I think City, they'll be fine. He's a great player.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that he's moved because he's got the trophies and he wasn't going to get more game time than what he got last season.
He probably got like more game time than he expected because Haaland was injured and De Bruyne was injured.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, he did earn his place. Like he was that good.
Yeah.
But this is a team that we've seen like Jack Grealish can barely get a minute for, who's worked very hard this season to get back in the team. And very high quality players like Calvin Phillips looks like a joke player. I mean, he's not as good now. He hasn't been his confidence dipped, but they've just got so many good options. I don't think it affects them too much.
I suppose bringing in Savinho, that now Foden could probably be put in the midfield rather than playing out on the right. So then you kind of replace Alvarez that way. That's
a good point. That it gives more flexibility to Foden. It could lead to defensive issues, is my only thing about that.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that, because Savio apparently, well, to me, he looks quite similar to Jeremy Doku. He's also been compared to Leroy Sané, who's apparently very statistically similar to him. and he's known for playing really wide and being more of a dribbler, and rather than getting end product. And I find that quite interesting that Pep's kind of evolving the team again, because it didn't really. City aren't known for taking on players, but now they're going to have Doku and also Savio.
Yeah.
They might be looking to take on players a bit more.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting evolution. Like, they kind of started off with those type of players with Sane and Sterling, who are more direct, and then they kind of switched back, and now they've gone back to that. Yeah.
Constantly changing things up, Pep. He's like, I mean, he looks like he's got everything sorted. I mean, he has Aguero, and it's like, oh, how are they going to replace Aguero? And then they just play with a centre forward that's like an extra midfielder pretty much, and then it's like, oh well, Haaland's not going to fit in, and then he just does. So yeah,
Cam, I think Pep's got 1 year left on his contract, and he hasn't really been very committal about whether he's going to re-sign or not. He's been linked to the England job as well. Do you think that might derail their season, like that instability about whether he's going to stay or not?
I don't think so. No, I think he will leave at the end of the season. That is my hope, more than anything.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to affect the team. I think he'll steamroll everyone and go out on top.
Like he does everywhere else, yeah. I guess the same thing was said about Klopp last season, and if anything, it kind of gave more energy to the team, didn't it?
For a short burst, probably, yeah. It probably helped them kick on a bit, rather than causing any issues, I'd say. But maybe we could have timed the burst later, and it would have been better, and we would have won.
I think that if Pep does leave, he won't announce it until
the end.
The end of the season, you're probably right.
I think with Klopp, he got leaked and then they had to release it because they didn't want to.
Something about that. I wasn't too concerned with those details, but I think once he'd known he was going to be leaving, it's probably something he wanted to say and get off his chest rather than keep it to himself.
Do we think they're going to win again? Win 5 in a row?
It pains me, but yeah.
Yep.
Can I say... Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I was going to say, I think I found a chink in the City armour. So I looked through all of the negative results that City had. Like, I think they got a draw against Tottenham, draw against Liverpool, and they were a little bit unlucky there. A couple draws against Arsenal, but they were also unlucky, and Arsenal pretty much, to me, just a slightly worse version of City. Still better than everyone else, but they're just not as good version of City. But the teams that got the most impressive results for me was Aston Villa, who completely outplayed them in one of their games. Yeah. Lost the other. And the other team was Chelsea, who played them 3 times. They got 2 draws. And then the FA Cup semi-final, they lost, but they really should have beat City. They really should have beat them. And what these 2 teams do is that they look to play it out the back, and then once it got to the middle, then they'd look to do a long ball over the top and play him behind Nicholas Jackson or Ollie Watkins. Once they got through, so just draw the press in, get to the middle, put it in behind. And I think City have a weakness there because their centre-backs aren't that fast. They're just really tall. If you try to play the ball long too early, they've got the aerial capabilities to put that stuff away. But then if you can...
bypass that first press,
you can catch them out. Even Rodri, I think he was dribbled past 5 times against Germany for Spain. And there's also the photos of him against Luis Diaz that were made into memes that Rodri's not as good as everyone thinks in transition and things like that. So I think that there is a way you can play against City and you can get better results. But no, they're going to win the league.
I hope not. Well, it depends, but we'll see, I guess. All right, because we've been rambling quite a long time, let's move on to Newcastle. They haven't spent a lot of money. I think they've been pretty constrained by PSR.
Yes.
They got Lewis Hall from Chelsea, and I think they also got another goalkeeper. Do you reckon they needed more signings? Because last season they had so many injuries and they just couldn't handle the European football as well. They're going to get Tonali back, I think, from suspension.
That's right.
I think on the 3rd game, I think he's available or something like that.
That'll be a big plus for them.
Botman missed a lot of games. Yep. I've seen that they've been in the market for another centre-back mainly. But I think they're a really good team and just got a bit unlucky last season with injuries, etc. Howe's obviously very well known for his attacking ability with Bournemouth, and then he got them Newcastle very defensively solid. If he can find a good mix of those two things in this Newcastle side, then I think they're a good chance of making top 4.
Yeah.
Even if they don't get any more signings, because as you said, they're not in Europe anymore.
That's
as
true.
they had to deal with last season.
That was because United won the cup? They got pushed out? Yeah.
Such a good feeling.
It might help them in the long run.
Yeah, it's possible.
They finished the season hot, which is also a very good sign.
But I've seen they're trying to sign Guehi from Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently they also wanted Jarell Quansah, because Liverpool were looking for Anthony Gordon, and they wanted Jarell Quansah from Liverpool, who plays centre-back. But
Gordon would be a big loss for
Liverpool
them.
didn't want to put Quansah in a deal.
Yeah.
He's because Gordon doesn't always get the goals and assists, so he got a few more this season than he usually does, but he's a very good presser, and he also wins a lot of penalties, and they're genuine wins because he's such a good dribbler that he baits players into tripping him over.
Yeah. He tore Spurs to shreds in that last game we played against them,
Was it against Spurs where he plays it really well? Or was it West Ham?
It might have been both, I'm not sure.
Ham.
Yeah.
Plays it really well to win a penalty.
Do you think Newcastle are a better team than Man United?
Good question.
No, I
No?
don't think so.
I think so.
I would say, from what I've seen of them playing the last 2 seasons, you've got to say Newcastle definitely played the better football. And they're more consistent. But maybe we haven't seen what they're like this season, yeah.
The Opta supercomputer also backs Newcastle over Manchester United.
Of course they do.
I'm a bit worried about Newcastle. I think they definitely could be in a chance for top 4. All right, let's talk about Nottingham Forest. They finished 17th last season, just about survived relegation, even with that points deduction. Do you reckon they're going to be battling to stay in the league again?
No, I'm pretty optimistic with Nottingham Forest.
Why is that?
Well, they've got your man at the helm, Nuno. He's a very good. He's a coach who's very good defensively. And Nottingham Forest actually last season, I think they were had the 4th least amount of expected goals against, but they conceded a ton because their goalkeeper wasn't very good.
Right.
So they were quite unlucky. They also had the points deduction last season. So there was those 2 things. And the other thing was they're really tall, but they were really bad at set pieces. And why are we bad and Everton are so good when we've got a pretty similar profile? They brought in a set piece coach and it didn't solve anything. But this transfer window, they brought in players, the goalkeeper to help out with this, and they brought in a centre-back who's very strong in the air to help out with their set-piece issues. And then just if they have a bit of luck with the shooting against them, then I think they'll do well.
What do you think about Forest, Cam?
Yeah, I don't really know much about Forest. I just know that Anthony Elanga plays for them, and I really like him, so I hope they play well.
They've got a few really good creators on the side. They've got Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, and Morgan Gibbs-White, who's an extremely good creator. It's just a matter of can Chris Wood and Taiwo Owonyi put them away, and even those 3 players themselves aren't very much goal scorers. Can they help contribute to the goals?
Yeah, when I was just building my fantasy team, I just noticed that Elanga had a lot of points last season. Yeah. I think I put him in there. Good player. He definitely, I think he could be a big, make the difference for them, yeah. All right, then, do you think mid-table, or mid-bottom half kind of thing?
Mid-bottom half.
Yeah.
But better than last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably 14th, 15th.
I hope so. I quite like having them in the league. One of those traditional clubs with lots of history.
Champions League.
Yeah. All right, let's go Southampton. They finished 4th in the championship last year and then managed to get through the playoffs, beating Leeds 1-0 in that final. I didn't watch that game. I remember we were talking about the playoff final earlier, and you were saying how it's the most. How do you describe it? The most money.
It's called the richest game in the world. Yeah. Because essentially, if you win the NBA championship, NFL, golf, or whatever, it's not as much money as the money you get from the broadcast deal of being in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So compared to the championship, so winning the game gets you like 100 million. So it's the richest. It's called the richest game in the world. That's what they call the playoff final.
Yeah. So they scraped over the line in that one. They're going to have to lean on probably Armstrong and Shea Adams for goals. I was having a look at the stats, and Armstrong had 24 goals, 13 assists. Adams had 18 goals, 6 assists. But then the rest of their squad kind of looks like a very championship quality team. Do you think?
I don't rate those two.
No.
They've both done very well in the championship traditionally, but not well
in the Prem. Yeah.
I do really like Smallbone. He's an Irish player. He's a midfielder. I've only seen him a couple of times. It was in the he played against Hungary and in the cup final he played a crucial role. He's a central midfielder, so kind of helped out since Ward-Prowse has gone missing.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned by Southampton. They've got a young head coach, but they're very possession reliant. And I feel like that's just going to be a Vincent Kompany, Burnley 2.0 type of situation that they can't convert that style to the Premier League.
Yeah. They probably were a little bit fortunate to even get promoted in the first place.
I mean, they did do quite well in the championship, I'd say. Like the championship was quite competitive for the top spot last season, so I wouldn't say they were super lucky. Even Nottingham Forrest got automatic promotion, but they were also shooting quite above the average. So.
Yeah. All right. What about West Ham? They've actually spent a little bit of money. They got Max Kilman from Wolves for 40 million at centre back, and then they also got Somerville from Leeds. He was like a Dutch winger in the championship who's got 19 goals and 9 assists. Then Fulkrug from Dortmund, the big centre forward.
Yes.
They look quite good to kind of strengthen like the spine of the team.
Yeah.
Obviously no Moyes as well. They've got Lopetegui. Could be a quite exciting season for them.
Absolutely. I think West Ham are going to rise up a lot because they also signed Tobito and Wan-Bissaka. So they've signed a lot of key players that are just going to go straight into the first team. And just, I'd be worried about playing West Ham.
It's a very different play style that they've got to convert to. More fun for the players, I'd imagine, than sitting back, counter-attack, and then, because they're very good shooters like Jared Bowen and Antonio, put their shots away generally, even Thomas Suchek from headers in the edge of the box. And Mateus Kudus, who's also a very good dribbler and just play all round. They shot very well and got lucky. They were in Europe this season and they did do well, but that was also because what was it? It was only a season or so ago that they nearly got relegated while they won the Conference League.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're up and down, and that's kind of how they'd been playing under Moyes. It kind of leans into being up and down. So they'll probably be more consistent throughout the season, but I'm not sure how they'll go. I'm not super optimistic.
It should be, at least for the West Ham fans, a bit more exciting to watch.
Definitely.
Moyes is kind of like one of the last remaining dinosaurs of the Premier League. I'm kind of glad he's gone, really. I think maybe pushing for Europe, maybe, or mid-table, upwards of mid-table.
I definitely have him in the top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of variance in where they could finish for me. It could be around Europe or a bit lower. I'm not super optimistic on West Ham.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to Wolves. Gary O'Neill's just signed a new contract I saw a few days ago. He's got quite a good reputation, and I think the Wolves fans really like him.
And he did well at Bournemouth before, and before that he was an assistant or maybe he was with the academy, but he was with Liverpool. So that was a good slide. It was a bit like shooting Bambi, Bournemouth getting rid of him the season before, but they're obviously very happy with Iraola, who plays a lot more entertaining football. Don't really rate the Wolves squad, especially with Neto gone.
Yeah.
I don't know if the whole experiment of focusing on buying Portuguese players is... I think that train kind of ran out the luck from that. So hopefully Hwang Hee-chan can have another really good season. I like Mateus Cunha, but I don't think that there's enough goals in them.
Yeah, I don't think losing Kilman, like their captain would help either.
Yeah, and they've lost Connor Cody as well a couple seasons back, so it's losing a lot of leadership in not that long of a period of time.
Yeah.
In danger of going down, or just going to be like a bottom half kind of team?
For me, they're in danger of going down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Cam?
I don't think they'll go down, but I think they'll be
Towards the bottom?
flirting with going down.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. That's brings us to a wrap on the Premier League
We did
previews.
it.
We've got through all the teams.
All 20.
All 20 teams done just in time for the season to kick off, which is good. I'll ask you guys if there's any, apart from Man United, is there any team you're excited to see how they'll go this season?
Yeah, we're excited to watch West Ham. I think they're going to be all right. And
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for a lot of their players. So I think that it'll be entertaining, to say the least. I'm also in the Championship excited to watch Leeds because I just really like Leeds.
Owen?
Well, first off, Cameron's not a real Manchester United fan, is he?
No, clearly not.
For me, Ipswich, they got Cam Burgess from Australia, got Massimo Luongo from Australia, got player of the tournament at the Asian Cup all those moons ago. They also play an interesting style of Kieran McKenna that I'm excited to see. So, and they're playing Liverpool first, which helps.
It's crazy to see like a team with like a League One squad in the Premier League. Yeah.
Well, I would say that, but we saw Luton last
Yeah,
season.
that's true. Yeah. I don't know, for myself, probably Crystal Palace. I think they've lost Elise, but I still really rate. God, names escaped me.
Eze?
No, the manager.
Mateta? Oh, Glasner.
Glasner, yeah, Glasner, and I think he's a
well
top
signed.
manager. And yeah, brought in Sarr, who's pretty decent. I like Crystal Palace. It'd be good to see them do well.
The
I like
sleeper
Crystal Palace
computer
as well.
had Crystal Palace really high this season. It had them in the top half for the first time.
Yeah,
So,
right. That's
That would be very hype if they finish top half.
I'd love that for them. All right, should we want to finish on quick fire questions?
Sounds good.
Do you prepare some, or was it just me?
I did, but phone dead.
Phone
so
dead. How many of them do you remember?
Do you want to see how?
Yeah, let's go. Let's put you to the test.
All right. Is it more likely for Chelsea to be beaten by 3+ goals, or to beat City on the weekend?
Lose by 3 goals.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Should Manchester United have released Mason Greenwood rather than loaning him out and selling him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Should have released?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, no, we're done.
It's not a bad effort. All right, my first one is who will finish bottom of the league?
Southampton.
Southampton.
Will Ten Hag survive this season?
Yes.
No.
Will this be Pep's last year at Man City?
No.
Yes.
Damn, these questions are clearly good if we're getting different answers. Newcastle to finish in the top 5.
Yes.
Yes.
Interesting. And who is the biggest flop which Ten Hag has signed?
Anthony.
Not
Anthony.
Sancho. Anthony?
Anthony.
Who comes in second?
It's Anthony again.
Damn, you really don't like Anthony.
No.
All right. Who are Man United playing opening game, by the
Fulham.
way? Fulham. At home?
I think away.
Away.
First game of the season.
Quite a tough one against Fulham away.
Yeah.
Craven Cottage. Yeah. And Liverpool playing
Ipswich.
There you
away. We always play promoted team, and I hate it.
on the first day.
Yeah.
Because they're always so up for the challenge.
Exactly, yeah. Like, we had to go out against Marcelo Bielsa's
Yeah.
Leeds. Like, nah, I don't want that first week, do I? Give me a spell, mate.
Spurs are playing Leicester as well at the King Power, so it's a similar kind of thing.
Fun.
Get to see Harry Winks come back to the,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the Wings Cup.
the Winks
Winks
Cup,
Cup.
yeah. All right, then. We'll call it a wrap on the episode. Leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Cameron, for coming on. It was
Thank you so much for having me.
a pleasure having you. I'll hopefully get you on again soon after Man United lose a few games. Certainly not if they're top of the league. Couldn't bear that. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. Yeah, remember to rate it 5 stars on Spotify. Share it with your friends. And yeah, see you then.
Bye.